Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Overtake Obsession. Today we have a topic that is widely talked about in Formula 1 at the moment. We have, should Lewis Hamilton retire from Formula 1? Obviously, with all the rumours of Hamilton, retiring, obviously I'm filming this after the 8th of August where there was some massive thing about him announcing his retirement, which is I was a bit scared, but he was just out announcing his brand, don't worry. But we need to talk about his form at the moment, because in 9 of the last 12 Formula 1 races, he's finished outside of the top 5. And really, this has been a common theme since the end of 2021, obviously, where the controversial decision between Max and Lewis. I'm not going to talk about that, though, because that is talked about too much in F1. It's a horrible decision, but it's just a bit much. But since 2021, he's really not shown any performance. And I get, 2022, his car, no side pods, big mistake. It was a lot of the car's problem as well. And I'm not saying it was just Hamilton, but George Russell outperformed in that car. He got a win that year in Brazil, Sao Paulo. Hamilton only got one pole, and it was in Hungary, I think, if I can remember off the top of my head. 2024, he showed a bit of promise winning 2 races, but he really only won 1 in Silverstone because Russell got that DSQ. And if we're going to talk about Lewis Hamilton's retirement, then we need to think about the new people coming into F1. Obviously, you got people like Kimi Antonelli, you got people like Oscar Piastri, like Bortoleto. Maybe not Franco Colapinto, he's a bit washed at the moment. But you got people like that coming into the sport, fresh, new and hungry. And I know Lance Stroll is just a waste of space, and so is, once again, Franco Colapinto, waste of space. Just doing nothing in the car and wasting seats that could be filled by young people like Alex Dunn or new people like Arvin Lindblad. I know he's probably going to take Tsunoda's seat in a couple of years or something like that. But you got to think about the new people coming into F1, and when you look at that, Toto obviously picked Antonelli over Carlos Sainz because Antonelli's young, fresh, and Carlos is a veteran of the sport basically now. So I understand what Toto did there, and it's because you want longevity in your drivers, and the fact that Ferrari got rid of Carlos Sainz, if that was any other driver, then they're not signing him, because that was an amazing driver duo. And to be honest, I don't think Hamilton's really lived up to Carlos's standards yet. I don't think the car's been a problem, but when you're sticking it, down in 12th and your teammates getting pole in Hungary, it's not a good enough performance, to represent how you are as a driver at the moment. And if we're going to think about Lewis Hamilton now, we've got to think about him back in the day. So let's say 10 years ago. In 10 of the first 13 races, he had podiums, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them were wins. And the only reason he didn't get all podiums was because he had 2 car failures and 1 crash with Nico Rosberg. Now, if we look at that now, this is a man who can't beat Charles Leclerc in equal machinery. But and I understand, it's his first year in the car, he's getting used to it. But they were his first few years in that car, it was like his second year. And he already started, to pick up the pace. But I just think Hamilton's age, and I think he's just getting to the point now where he's either got to call it a day in Formula 1, or he's got to accept that he's not going to win another championship. I can't see it happening personally. I just really can't, and I hate to say that, I really do. He is an 8-time world champion, he's been snuffed on 3 occasions now. He could have won it 10 times. But he is an 8-time champion of the world, and it is sad, but he needs to think about his career. He will be the greatest driver of all time forever, basically now. Unless Oscar Piastri wins 8 in a row. He will be the best driver of all time. Most wins, most poles, most podiums, blah yada yada yada. He's just got to watch out, because we don't want to see him fall from grace. If he retired at the end of the 2021 season, everyone would have been like, oh, he could have won more. Now everyone's just like, he's not going to win anymore. and I think that damages his legacy as a driver, as a sportsman, I guess you could say. But you know, when you're being beat by these 17-year-olds of Kimi Antonelli and these 24-year-olds of George Russell, you know, but when you're 40 years of age, it's hard to say, yeah, okay, what the hell is going on outside? It's hard to say I still deserve this seat in Formula One. You know, I think if he was a Max Verstappen, he would be out of this sport already. You know, I'm not saying Max is a bad driver. I'm saying he's only got 4 world championships, and 4 is still, you know, 4 more than 8 of the drivers or 18 of the drivers on the grid. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to put into perspective of when Lewis Hamilton should retire. But in my opinion, I think at the end of next year, if he doesn't beat Charles Leclerc, he needs to call it a day. He needs to leave the F1 before the F1 leaves him, because if he doesn't, then he's just going to go out like Schumacher did. And Schumacher came back in that Mercedes and got beat by Nico Rosberg, you know? Like, Nico Rosberg on 2 occasions has beat a 7-time world champion in equal machinery. It's funny. But yeah, he left and everyone was like, oh, he couldn't recapture his earlier success, you know, winning 5 in a row, 2000 to 2005 or whatever it was, something like that. But yeah, I think it's quite tough to say. We don't want him to go out like Michael did, you know, because he's an icon of this sport, he really is, and I do feel like I am waffling at this point, but I think, and if you agree with me, I hope you do, there's a level of, you know, some, you know what I mean? Like, there's a level of something that he has to earn to stay in the sport, and so far he's not performing like he should be. 2 fourth places is not good enough for Ferrari. You know, Leclerc's been on the podium, poles. Hamilton's got a sprint win and a sprint pole. You know, it's just, for Ferrari, he's not performing well enough, and that car is not performing well enough. The car is also not a good car. But, you know, to be getting out qualified and beaten by, in the first race in Australia, it was beaten by Alex Albon and beaten by Nico Hülkenberg, and he was behind Lance Stroll in the championship. To have all them stats against you, the only mitigating factor in this situation is that he is a 7-time world champion. And, you know, he's got to try and recapture his form before it all goes to pot. And I just don't see it happening, you know. I don't see him capturing his, like, 20. I think peak Hamilton was 2019 because he beat out Sebastian Vettel, and that was just so good. Like, and also prime Hamilton was 2021, I guess. I've just never seen a bigger fall from grace, I don't think. And it's hard to say, but I think he's at the end of his career. You know, I don't think he can go like Alonso, and he has gone like Alonso, you know, he's like 2 years younger than him. He has gone like Alonso, but it's just the fact that Alonso is in an Aston Martin, and he's not expected to get race wins, he's just expected to get points, and he gets points. But Hamilton's expected to be on the podium, and he's just not, so I do understand where Hamilton's coming from. And you can also tell, you know, he's kind of lost the motivation a little bit, you know. Him obviously saying at the end of qualifying, I'm useless, they need to replace me as a driver. That's not, if I was the team principal, if I was Fred Vasseur, I'd be like, alright, that's not the mentality that I want from my driver. If you understand what I'm saying, you know, I would want a driver who is like a really like amped up person on the grid. I guess you could say Max Verstappen. He's like, I don't care, I'm the best driver on the grid, because you've got to believe that he's the best. You don't want a driver who's like this. Like, he looks so sad. Like, this guy is so sad in this sport right now, and that's not the one that's not the Hamilton I want to see. I want to see Hamilton as a driver who is up there constantly getting podiums, but that's just not the Hamilton we're seeing now, and I understand age has got something to do with it. You know, he's 40 years old. This is a hard sport. You know, doing 5G through a corner and going, what was the max? Like 231 was the max Valtteri Bottas did in Baku. going them speeds down straights, just crushing your back. It's just not good for the body. And you know, we see many drivers suffer from problems. We had Jenson Button, he suffered from a couple back problems. Nico Rosberg did, didn't he? At some point in his career, I feel like. But yeah, when you have young Max Verstappen, he's still young, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Kimi Antonelli, when you have all these drivers, all of these here, and then you have him, I'm choosing these over him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like Hamilton is at the level that I expect him to be at right now. You know, I've been following the sport since 2016, but I'm quite young, obviously. I'm not going to say my age because I don't want YouTube to ban me. But you know, like, I was watching it since I was like, I've been watching F1 since I was like 6 years old or something. Crappy Chloe did math from that. And it's like, the Hamilton that I saw growing up and the one that I aspired to you know, win, and the one that I wanted to win all the time until Norris came in, he was the number one driver for me, and I was like, wow, this guy is fast. You know, he's fast. Obviously, you know, I got into Lando Norris and now he's my favourite. But I'm not a new supporter of Norris. I've been supporting Norris since 2019 when he first came in. And yeah, but Hamilton's been the main influence on my life. In terms of F1 drivers, because I feel like he's been the most like stand up to whatever. And he's a really good driver, obviously. And if you put him in equal machinery with let's say Fernando Alonso, and you put him in equal machinery with, say, an Oscar Piastri, I'm taking Oscar Piastri, but I'm taking Lewis Hamilton in the Fernando 5. I'm taking Oscar in that fact. You know what I mean? I think young always wins out over veteran, you know. But if you put in, there's also down to skill, you know. If you put Hamilton and Colapinto in the same car, I sound like I hate Colapinto. I don't hate Colapinto, I just don't think he's cut out to be an F1. And I'm mad, because Jack Doohan should be an F1. He should still be in that Alpine seat. They did not give him enough time, and then they're giving Crasher Pinto like 87 years to get into the sport and get used to it. Well, they didn't do that for Jack, and that's just unfair. It's not right. And you know, it's hard to say, but like, Hamilton is at a point of his career where when you see him say, and I remember in Hungary he said, where's that 0.2 of a second or something, or there's the radio. And I remember last year in like Suzuka he said, where's that second to Max? I'll put that there. So when you've got these two, you know, going at it like that, 2 years apart, it's showing that it wasn't just the car, it was the driver also. And I sound like a Hamilton hater. I love Hamilton. He really is like an amazing driver, and everyone knows that. But I just don't think he's meant to be in this sport anymore, and that hurts. It's gutting. It's sad, but it just is what it is at this point, and there's not much that anyone can do, if you know what I mean. You know, like, no one can make a driver regain his form, you know what I mean? Like, if I think of a driver who like fell off, Vettel did not fall off. That Ferrari was horrible, but you know, he left Red Bull and he was just never the same after that. You know, he had crashes, he had that one big crash in that one big place, whatever it was. And yeah, like I said, it's just hard to see Hamilton fading like he is, you know. Like Lightning McQueen against Jackson Storm, you know, you got Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, and let's say Max Verstappen. You know, on here being Jackson Storm, but then you got Lightning McQueen, you know, and it's Hamilton, you know, Hamilton's fading fast. And yeah, it's just sad to see him like this. But in conclusion for this video, I think I'll round out the podcast here. I think he needs to retire. Next year, if he doesn't beat Leclerc, I think he needs to retire, and I think he's on his way out. You know, I think maybe with all the other, obviously, you know, Cadillac coming in, and like, I think a test will be when we see Perez and Valtteri Bottas. because they were all kind of the same era, as you can say. Obviously, these two came in later than this guy. But I think I tell you what, we're putting Fernando Alonso there as well. So we've got these two and these two. I think whoever performs better will show. We put the rookies in, and then these. I think because I think age is just a massive thing. It's not just about cars; it's about driver ability and age. And everyone was really worried when they saw Hamilton in Baku clutching his back in that 2022 race. When he's clutching his back, everyone was like, "Oh no, that was just the car." But he just seems like he doesn't enjoy what he's doing anymore. And when a driver doesn't enjoy what he's doing, he's no longer at his top performance, as you can say. He's not at his top level that he should be at, and that he used to be at, say 2014, 15, whatever. Yeah, I think it's time for Lewis to handle the boots now. But anyway, thank you so much. If you've actually made it this far, thank you genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, because you are listening to a pro yapper. Genuinely. Comment a F1 car if you watched all the way to the end, yeah? We won't see any of them. If we have 2 of them, I'll be very happy with that. And make sure your overtake obsession never goes away. I've been Alfie. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.